Mani here with another episode of our AI GTM Talk series, episode 14 today, and super excited. I'm happy to welcome uh, growth marketing advisor, and I know she works with several companies. Many of them, in fact, also leverage our technology, our AI GTM tech. And so we have Aditi Karandikar. Aditi, welcome.
Thank you, Mani, for having me here. Very excited as well to talk about all things AI and marketing.
Okay, thanks, Aditi. So, Aditi, what I'm going to do is just set the context to this talk series first, so people know, who do we bring on, what do we tend to talk about, a little bit of that, and then, of course, the rest of the show is going to be all about you, and I'm sure you're going to have some very interesting insights and perspectives for folks, listening. So, what we have, the kind of the rationale, the reason we kicked off this talk series was we felt there is just a lot happening around AI coming in and transforming go to market at companies. There's just a ton of new technology, data, process, tools. Everything is kind of changing, right? And so, a lot of confusion in the market, buyer confusion about what do they need and how do they go about doing that transformation. So we've been bringing on two kinds of speakers, if you will, to our series. Either they are really deep, going deep into one area of technology, they're AI GTM tech CEOs, building their businesses, or it's been, what I would call revenue leaders, growth leaders, who are actually investing in technology tools and actually doing the transformation, the heavy lifting, right, within organizations. So I'm happy to have you, Aditi, because I know you'll bring a lot of the perspective of the latter. So um, let's get going here. And so I'm going to obviously put up this slide, and this is about you. Aditi, anything you want to say real quick about, I think people want to know kind of your framing of the kind of customers you work with, clients you work with, and of course, your journey a little bit into the kind of, perspective you might bring to the discussion. Go ahead.
Sure. I've been in the Silicon Valley now more than 15 years, working in companies big and small, everything from Fortune 500, Cisco's, eBay's, to mid-sized, SaaS companies, high tech, fintech. Did a lot of startups where I was wearing multiple hats, but also, led demand gen and marketing ops for companies like Blackhawk. Um, but the gamut runs really from startups who are mature or being taken over by PE, which where the dynamics is very different in terms of being EBITDA positive versus a startup culture of growth or just scale. So the clients have been dealing with after my career in corporate, where we actually intersected money the first time,
Yes.
have been the smaller clients and the mid-sized clients who are trying to navigate this current macroeconomics with the advent of AI, but also with leaner teams, more stringent valuations in the valley here now. So go-to
Mhm.
market has kind of evolved, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. And I know, Aditi, you put together a few slides, right, to kind of keep the conversation moving in different topics, different areas. So let me go ahead. I'm going to just move this along, and maybe you can frame, what all things we want to chat about, with the folks listening. Go ahead.
Yes, my core expertise is in enabling marketing and sales to drive revenue. So that whether that is through full funnel demand generation in the traditional sense, or ABM, or whatever model you want to choose on the marketing side, but also sales enablement, or accelerating deals which are in the pipeline, or increasing the average deal size, etc. So in my role, a smarter GTM includes both marketing and sales enablement.
Got it. Got it. So I think you're right. You make an important point there. Um, Traditional, right, marketing orgs have been very what I call specialists in kind of functional roles in different areas. Content marketing, product marketing, growth demand gen, and then on to sales enablement. Um, it's almost like we're going back to a world where uh, people who are very strong, versatile generalists. I feel. I mean, maybe I'd love to get your take on it. Are going to be I would say, back in vogue or more interesting from deep specialization in one bucket. It's like if you're versatile, you can do a lot of things for the organization. Would you agree? I mean, you might
Yeah, I
probably.
think being in silos in your own tool or world is very much passe now. You
Hmm.
have to straddle between marketing and sales. You have to become like a AI operator who connects the dots. You can't just also, just pass the buck, whether it's leads across the fence to sales and sit back and say, oh, my task here is done. I have managed SDR teams as well as marketing teams in multiple organizations, and I do see the value of looking at it holistically across the whole funnel,
Hmm.
end to
Hmm.
end, rather than being in, oh, this is my little nook, and I'm going to extra specialize here while the world is moving on.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So so obviously, we're going to be getting in more and more of the AI aspect of things, and how AI is transforming go to market. Um, let me ask you this real quick. I mean, you mentioned smarter GTM, you mentioned marketing and sales. Um, do you have do you do much on the third leg, if you will, of GTM? To me, it's customer success, expansion, upsell, cross sell, those kinds of areas.
Yes, so campaigns can, in my mind, be whether they are conquesting, where they're looking to get into more logos, which is on the wish list of sales, or not on the radar of the sale, but there are buyer intent signals. Or it could be the better value is, of course, always preventing churn, retention, and cross sell, upsell campaigns, which is the land and expand model of integrated campaigns within a company. So as companies have more revenue streams and no more solutions or verticals, we definitely want to see how they can expand, whether it's across geos or across solutions, to a better deal size.
Got it. So I'm going to move on to the next, next thing you wanted to talk about. Then this is, I think, okay, I'm going to put this up because this now gets into where AI is coming in and how is it changing traditional, right, the marketing to sales funnel process, if you will, and the whole
Mhm.
buyer journey or the demand gen funnel. But yeah, go ahead. How do you think about this?
I think that there are four pillars, as I say, but there's a lot of buzz about content part of it and not enough about the rest of it. Everybody keeps talking about the chat GPTs, the video that you can generate with prompt engineering it, right? But
Mhm.
there's so much more. Even within content, you don't want to do random acts of content creation. There should be a strategy and framework, whether it's, oh, how do I rank for certain keywords in this evolving AI, LLMs, etc. So
Mhm.
when you keep aside content and go, below the hood a bit, that's where, how do you personalize or map the intent or the buyer signals using some of the newer tech that is available to us? How do you create better intersections in a buyer's journey that you're now able to visualize with tools like Quanzu? And how do you enable your outbound as well as inbound using AI, because you can then make your SDRs much more productive as the human in the loop, with AI doing the heavy lifting in the background. So that is where scale comes in, and that is where the true value of AI in GTM could play.
Great. So I think, Aditi, in the interest of full disclosure, we should probably tell people, right? So you have been referring us, recommending us, using us in certain, call it, steps in your journey as you go into different customers and work with them, right? So,
Absolutely. I have found value in showing clients the value of their paid search dollars or SEO efforts or
mhm.
email efforts, where they can now visualize, instead of somebody just saying, oh, we got 100 clicks, they are more actionable if they know who came exactly that we should follow up or have sales follow up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Let me keep going. So I think just to frame this for the folks listening, you're bucketing it in four big buckets. You said think about content, think about demand gen in the traditional sense of bringing in qualified audiences and traffic to your website. Then you have the buyer journey, buyer intelligence component. So that's where you need to figure out exactly who these people are, and then your last bucket is sales enablement, which is the actual outbound and outreach. So that's kind of how we're framing it. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go to where you want to take it from here. I think your next thing was to talk about SEO and how that's changing now because of AI.
Yes, let's go to the next slide. So I think there's a lot of buzz about this. The Google conference recently, the I/O mentioned that a lot of the shift is to clickless searches, or Google's doing AI summaries. And there's also a lot more people now going and searching on alternatives like Perplexity, Gemini, ChatGPT, SearchGPT. So what does that mean in terms of brands who were ranking well, getting a lot of traffic and conversion through SEO? How do they keep up with the changes going to whether you want to call it LLM SEO, GEO, or whatever you want to refer it to? The terms are still kind of settling down, but there is a distinct advantage for an early adopter to, even if it's a newer brand, to kind of become dominant in these alternate spaces, or even to leverage AI summaries more, to become more visible as a brand through keeping up with these newer AI SEO tactics.
Got it. And just for the folks listening, GEO is a relatively newer acronym. What does it stand for?
This is general, generative experience optimization, as opposed to search engine optimization.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, generative AI, that kind of thing. Okay. Um, and so I think, okay, you're making a few key points here. More and more of so-called Google searches are shifting over to the,
Yeah,
AI tools, on and on. Okay.
this is a screenshot of some of the tools which help you gauge how you are performing in these searches, whether you're ranking on these tools. If somebody is searching on ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini for your brand, does it show up? What is your brand visibility there? Or what is
Mm.
your sentiment score, etc.? But there's much more under the hood. How you can optimize, what tweaks you can make to how you write content, so that
Mm.
it shows up not just on Google, but also on AI overviews as well as these tools.
Got it. Is this an area you're starting to see customers actually they're putting in the effort, they're doing the work, they're doing the heavy lifting
Yes,
in?
yes, I'm seeing this very much, in the SEO strategy of mature companies that are my
Mm.
clients, but
Mhm.
they are showing up for the smaller clients who are go to market, and they want to compete with the gorillas in the market, but this is an avenue for them to show up where the traditional competitors may not have figured out how to do this yet.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, what's interesting also here is in traditional Google search, you're competing with all these paid, right, paid ads that are taking up a lot of the real estate. And the AI tools, I don't believe they've done it yet, right? But that might happen where they'll again. Uh,
So
are they?
already we are seeing, right, that a lot of the searches, especially top of the funnel searches, are beginning to have AI summaries. So nobody really clicks through and goes to the brand pages. So
Mm,
they are trying to leverage how to show up in those summaries on Google. So
mm.
that's huge. But we want to also address people who are separately going into these other channels and trying to rank there. But that could be a different audience. If your ICP is more prone to going to Search GPT versus going to Google now, you have to try to keep up and scramble and fix your SEO for that aspect.
Got it. Got it. So okay, this was your first call out, and then I think your next thing was I think you want to talk about demand gen more
Yes,
broadly.
in demand gen, we are seeing some of the major players like HubSpot or Google, or the Salesforces of the world. Everybody is incorporating AI within their
Correct.
existing offering. So not much that brands have to do except keep up. But there are a lot of tools which are coming in that are the gaps in what these big giants are providing. That is where there's a lot of confusion, buzz, hype. the saturation, there's fatigue. So
Mm.
I think what is pervasive is that AI is now across the demand gen framework. So this is the framework I personally use for clients,
Okay.
whether it's a tactical level that you want to do ABM, or you want to do a PLG model, you want to do sales enablement, you want to do lead generation, you want to do outbound, inbound campaigns, whether you want to leverage a channel like email, SEO, we just spoke about, paid search. So earned, owned, and paid channels are now being, leveraging AI, and we need to see how this traditional demand gen stack incorporates AI in your company.
Got it. For folks listening, I think it might be useful, Aditi, maybe if we can drill down in a couple of areas. Um, for example, I'd love to get your take on how do you, since you have two different right boxes here, how do you think of sales enablement, and how is sales enablement different from what you called out as inbound and outbound?
So we can go to a couple of the following slides, but at the
Mm.
very high level, sales enablement means you have data, but it's actionable by
Mm.
sales. So I don't want to just say, oh, sitting in marketing, oh, my program generated so many clicks or
Yep.
vanity metrics. If
Hmm.
it cannot be then used by sales, right?
Got it.
Leads, yes, but what about a lot of the branding and efforts that are being done from other aspects of marketing? How can
Mhm.
that signal be passed on effectively for sales to chase down in with the outreach? I think of sales as farmers and hunters. So
Yep.
farmers are the ones who will take and nurture and take leads which are handed over on a
Yep.
plate sometimes, whereas some are half baked. There is intention, but there is not that band qualification, or it needs more hands on approach or outreach. That is where the hunting comes up, which marketing needs to enable sales to do it more productively, effectively, at in terms of scale, in terms of cost. So that is where AI can be very effective. If
Mm.
marketing and sales collaborate, you have to be joined at the hips in passing on these signals and enabling sales to look good. You know.
Yeah, and of course, I know that many companies, of course, break out their SDR sales inside sales teams into an inbound team and an outbound team. Inbound team is working with all the leads coming in, flowing in through their own form, website forms and people raise hand raisers and so on. While outbound is you have to proactively, as you said, do the sleuthing and investigation of all these signals and then figure out who to prioritize and who to go after. That's
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
what.
there's already been a lot of predictive analytics and cloning of existing customers, as well as buyer signals and intent mapping. AI
Mhm.
just puts that on steroids.
Right, right, right. Makes it easier to kind of digest all that and make sense and do more.
Mm.
And wow, you now have this humongous tech stack slide, and of course, I think you've labeled it pre AI.
Yes, this is not even the full tech stack that marketers had to deal with
Right,
pre-AI, right?
right,
This is
right,
just
right.
a buyer journey, and how marketing and sales, whatever you define as the handoff point,
Mm.
interact. But this used to be pretty much. I'm just taking the example of a HubSpot shop because we do a lot with smaller clients who have HubSpot as opposed to bigger clients who invest in Salesforce, Marketo, etc. But to give you just an idea that it was complicated enough, right? Pre
Yep.
AI.
Hmm.
And you had generalists and specialists, to your earlier point, digging into any of these, and then they could make a career out of it, being, I'm the Salesforce admin or whatever. But
Hmm.
now you need to have the AI operator hat on to kind of tackle the evolving tech stack, which I think I have it on the next slide. I do want to move on from this very busy slide.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about this next slide because I think this is very interesting. This you're calling this the they call it the choices available in this kind of the redesigned, rebuilt, re-architected, modern AI GTM stack. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. And don't go by the names on this deck, because as we speak, it's probably dated. because
Mm-hmm.
a new tool is sprouting up every minute, right?
Yep.
A new
Yep.
company is coming up saying, I do this. So,
Mm-hmm.
one of the challenges right now in this environment, till it consolidates and settles down, as we probably will see in the near future, is this plethora of tools.
Yeah.
That is what is leading to the AI fatigue, AI saturation. Brands
Mm-hmm.
are like, okay, which one do I use for content creation versus which is battle tested? Who
Mm-hmm.
can help me? And that is where I help a lot of my clients in just deciding what makes sense for their budget, for their ICP, their watering holes where their clients visit, versus just take the latest shiny tool and say, I'm going to do this because there's a lot of hype in the market for this tool, which is going to become the old tool by next month.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to kind of be judicious in uh, guiding the selection of tools, but also incorporating a lot of these into their existing traditional tech stack is a challenge. I have been helping them with webhooks and API integration into these tools, but also training their existing team on how to then leverage these tools has
Right.
been very much a big part of the mindset change in house as well as through agency that we
Mm-hmm.
have to incorporate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much in terms of existing process and how people collaborate and get something done, and right jobs to be done on a day-to-day basis, and how a lot of that, as you said, has to shift and change, as you introduce some of these new tools and tech. What I think you've got several, as you said, for content creation. What have you found are the low hanging fruit areas, just broadly in the content space? What are you seeing there in terms of?
I mean, everybody kind of agrees that we use AI for the draft, to thought generator, researcher. Then you
Correct.
want human to kind of come in and lend their value through editing or
Mm,
refining, etc.
got it.
Then using the AI further to create or templatize, like, okay, now that we have this messaging, which we all agree on, how do
Mm,
we channelize it? Means, how do we make it friendly for LinkedIn versus email nurture series versus SEO of the website versus so how do we compartmentalize the type of content that we need to disseminate in each of these channels? Using AI is the next step. Sometimes there's a need for brand voice, brand guidelines to stay within that while keeping hallucinations out, so humans still have value there, right?
mhm.
And um, as I said, some of the bigger tools like HubSpot or LinkedIn are already incorporating, and you don't really need to know much beyond refining your knowledge of how to leverage these things which you're probably already paying for, but don't
Right.
know they're doing something else, like maybe a chatbot
Hmm.
agent bot that HubSpot offers, or Salesforce has Einstein scoring model, which is very different from the typical scoring model or attribution models. We would have control about setting the parameters for from marketing, whereas in Einstein you don't have control. you know you cannot set the filters, or you cannot set the scoring model as to which ones to up score and down score, or
Got it.
uh, yeah.
So is it fair to say lot of the challenge for the call it the person responsible for putting together the stack within the mid-sized company, larger company, is figuring out and picking and choosing, because there is overlap across these tools. So now you got to figure out, okay, this is the best tool. I'm going to use this capability in this tool, and that's how I'm going to use it. I may not use it because this is second level, second order, and this one is the primary for something else, right? Probably happens a lot, isn't it?
Yes, but also the average person in the team is so slammed with their day to day. Who is
Correct.
keeping up all these changes, the latest and greatest, keeping up the learning, the training?
Yes.
That
Right.
is where I think we can guide teams and be the SMEs on where AI is, and where the
Yeah.
puck is going to be, and
Got it.
up level the team skill set while we do that.
Got it. So then you've got, I mean, I'm just looking at the marketing slice that you've got, right, and sales enablement. It's interesting to me. You put a couple of the ABM tech, ABM tools. You know, I think of them maybe. I mean, where do they straddle in your mind today in terms of in across marketing and sales enablement? Um, and they
So
certainly have some buyer intelligence, but at a company level, right? So like a demand based section to tell you at a company level who's visiting, who's engaging, and then you have other buyer intelligence tools like us. We do at a person level, but yeah. If you
yes,
can
I
talk
think
about, yeah, how do you think about this world of marketing and sales enablement? Go ahead.
in fact, with ABM, I've always decided to not put all my eggs on the ABM bandwagon alone. Even when I was top ABM 45 marketer back in the day, I learned that a hybrid approach to traditional demand generation versus ABM is the best way to go,
Okay.
because sometimes ABM might be too focused on the accounts they are uh, following, monitoring, and miss the signals for somebody who was not on your radar but is actually in market. So
Okay.
we want to also enable somebody to, let's say you have account level signals that somebody from a big company has visited your website and you're excited, but then after the fact your sales doesn't know who in that huge 10,000 person company to go after. It's like looking for needle in a haystack, right? That's where
Okay.
I do say that a person level tracking with a tool like Kwanzu does make life so much easier and so much more, granular as to where the follow up needs to be within the buying committee, whether it's the influencer or the decision maker who visited the website. It makes it so much easier to for sales to know, instead of trying to go after 20 people within that account, which they
Right.
should do, but which is the one person who needs that extra TLC, right? Or immediate outreach. So I
Right.
think that's where I think I always suggest tools like Kwanzu.
Right.
I also think that AI enables what I am calling a poor woman's ABM. So if
Okay.
you don't have the budget for a six sense or one of these six-figure tools,
Hmm.
right? And you will have a leaner, meaner go-to-market machine at this stage of your company.
Right.
AI is happier, more gorilla, and definitely gets the job done to an extent.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting you brought that up because you're right. In the last couple of years, there's been this other trend. They're calling it ABM unbundled, right? So there's a bunch of players, and they do maybe one piece of what some of these bigger,
Mhm.
mega tools do. And I think, yeah, that's another way to go. Certainly, we're seeing in the SMB space. Of course, mid
Just
market,
an
large enterprise.
example, yeah, as an example, if the budget is there, six cents or demand based, yes, go for it. If the budget isn't there, I used to suggest LinkedIn as a ABM tool if
Right.
you're going after a list. But
Mm.
right now, if you even don't have that LinkedIn in-mail or ads budget, you could
Mm.
use AI automation tools to go after people on email and in their in-mail and
Right.
request. So that automation plus AI is very,
Right.
very cheap but effective.
Got it. Okay, let's keep going. I think next up was, I think we were going to go deeper into buyer intelligence, right? Person level or buyer level intelligence. And you have a point to make here, I believe, around
Yes.
how to make more, get more value from your paid media investments.
Yes. So a lot of clients, they will, they're very reactive sometimes, or it's a budget pressure,
Mm.
especially in today's market where they do 3 months of some ad campaign and say, oh, we got 100 clicks, but I don't know if it did anything, right? They don't know how to gauge the value from the existing, what I call, vanity metrics. But if you pair it with uncovering or de-anonymizing who exactly the effort led to your website in terms of branding or trickle down into demand gen, and even you can see that, okay, that was money well spent. Even if you got maybe one lead, you have identified 100 people who your SDR from the outbound team should go after.
Mhm.
Even if the inbound team can only count on one lead, you are getting much more value now, and your CPA may be different and your CPM is definitely different, right? So you're not just looking at it from a CPL value. So I think this is where I have been recommending clients to do at least the free trial when I
Mm,
go live with a campaign, whether it's an email campaign, whether I've done SEO for them, or I have done ads for them, LinkedIn or Google or Meta, depending on B2C or B2B.
mm,
They love to see, it's like a big aha moment that, okay, this came from this effort, but we only knew about the ones that we had filling up the form. Less
mm,
people feel ready to fill out a form and talk to sales at the initial parts of their buyer journey. And
mm,
that is the part of the buyer journey where you want to intersect with them and engage with them before they move on to a competitor. So
mm.
that, whether it happens through a real time chat, whether it happens to a follow up call, because without creeping them up, obviously that you don't say, hey, I saw you visited our website.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
how do you know? So
Right.
there are ways you can train the SDR team to do a warm outreach where if they are SLA set, people are not so freaked out, but they remember going to this website.
Got it. So let's take a step back. I appreciate this. You're talking. I think you made a very key point here about you putting so much investment into paid media. How do you get more value out of your paid media investments, which makes sense. um, Big picture, I wanted to see, before we get into some, I think we do want to, I think next up we were going to go look at more deeper into this whole buyer intelligence, buyer journey, a variety of tools in that space, how to think about it, what are the differences, distinction. But before we go there, I mean, given all your expertise in demand gen, right, and growth marketing, what do you see happening just looking ahead in terms of the big buckets of spend and how budgets are changing, shifting, getting reorganized? If you look at the rest of the year, I'm curious to hear, I want to get your take on that. What do you see happening? And not just in the younger companies, SMB, but as you go a little bit further up market, what are you seeing?
Yeah, the bigger budgets, right? I have a client who spends hundreds per month on iHeartMedia for branding and awareness, or on radio, or streaming, or OTT, right?
Got it.
And
Got it.
they were not initially able to attribute what radio is doing, for
Got it.
example. It's so
Got it.
hard to track everything which is not trackable, and
Mhm.
marketers get too much of an analysis paralysis about, is this channel working? Well, just because you can't measure it doesn't mean it's not working, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
sometimes you throw out the baby with the bathwater in trying to do this very multi-channel attribution model, blah blah. Whereas sometimes it's easier to just look at a screen like this and see if we can figure out the value of doing some of these channels which are harder to you know test, but we see there is a holistic uplift from
Mm,
radio on a certain date that the ad ran, and we
mm,
can have a more cloud analytics and SaaS built in to track it
yeah.
now. But it's not just Google and LinkedIn, but also some of these other channels where my clients are feeling more confident spending because they're
Mm,
seeing the value. But
got it.
I'm also seeing them scrambling to, as I mentioned, update their SEO to the new AI SEO, or making
Mm,
sure their content strategy incorporates AI for more productivity. The sales team and marketing team are collaborating more because they're
mm,
able to see something like this, and marketing feels like they're sitting at the revenue table and not just a brochure generator.
got it. All right.
That is huge value.
Sounds good. Look, I can tell you this. I mean, I'm sure we can probably spend another 15-20 minutes on attribution
Oh
alone,
my
right? It's a
goodness.
big topic, but I know we have other things to cover. So let me move on. I want to drill down into, right, some of the core areas where I think we certainly, from our perspective, we've been spending a lot of time trying to understand where do we fit, how do we bring value, etc. And I'd like to get your take on this. So if you look at uh, I think next was really AI and how do you use AI for signal based outbound. I believe that's your next topic. How do you
Mhm,
do warm outreach at scale?
mhm.
Um, Help us understand what this picture is. What are you trying to explain here?
So this is an alternate to doing, let's say, LinkedIn in-mail ads for which you need a budget, or
Right,
sponsored ads, etc.
right.
Or
Mhm,
you come up with a list of a cold list, and you
Mm,
start an email campaign where your
mm,
domain could be blacklisted as spam,
mm,
especially in some US markets or Canada, etc. So how do
mm,
you do a outreach while protecting your domain from being
mm.
blacklisted or ending up in spam using AI, and at the same time, you keep your very costs very low? This is where AI automation for prospecting can help you at scale go after a list, but you don't even have to sometimes buy the list. You just can go in and automate, let's say, outreach from one of your sales heads to the prospects he's going after on LinkedIn. And if they request a LinkedIn connection and are accepted, then they can continue the conversation there to have a meeting. If not, they could then toggle over to his inbox in his email and then
Yeah,
continue the conversation that way. And all this is obviously not done manually, but here are
correct.
also there's a human in the mix who will
Yes.
pick up
Yeah.
the signal and move.
Right. And
But
there's
then,
a lot of tools popping up in this area for sure. And I think next up, you were trying to show a little bit
yes,
more detail on this, correct? Yep.
this is where marketing can help personalize and leverage the intent signals, whether it's ABM or traditional demand gen, where you can just see who is complaining about his existing tool, who is having a pain point discussion, who is leaving a review on G2, who
Mm,
is currently researching or asking his peers about something. And in real time you could use a AI sequence to go after these people in an outbound fashion,
right,
leveraging the data that is inbound from here.
right.
So it's very, very efficient and personalized.
Hmm. Yeah, I know there's a, and now I think, Aditi, next up we wanted to, I think, maybe drill down on this a little bit, right, in terms of the kinds of tools that really are popping up now
Mhm.
for executing this signal based outbound, right? So, which is how do you understand all the buying signals, person level, company level, on your website, off your website? How do you then aggregate all these signals? How do you unify them? How do you build what I call signal based segments? And then how do you have a way to move people, basically associate them with separate outreach campaigns, messages? This stuff is not easy, right? I mean, there's a, a slew of tools that are popping up,
Mhm.
and it needs a significant amount of heavy lifting. And I think there's a lot of work to be done across the industry, I believe, right, to make it easy for people to do, especially growth leaders, advisors, demand marketers, revenue leaders like you, right? Because uh, this two by two, at least the way we sketch it, Aditi, I'd like to get your take on it, right? If you look at the left to right, we said, okay, on the left are tools that are a little more complex. You need like a GTM engineer or Rev Ops or GTM Ops to kind of run it. On the
Mhm.
right, let's call it the simple tools. They need to
Mhm.
get simpler, but they're trying to be the simple tools for folks like you, right? And then if you go up and down, there is the, call it the scale of signals. You've got your 6 sense demand based ABM tools that can do company level signals. And then you go further up the chain, up the kind of the y axis. You've got more individual signals on all the different channels and sources. And you've got them becoming more and more dynamic and automated. So they're not static. You don't have to keep building those lists. Anyway, look, this is our take on the world as it is, but I'd love to see what you had to say about this.
you know Suggesting a tool, but then implementing that within the client's environment, his
Yeah,
existing tech stack, without having to ripping or replace, or sometimes it's like so painful for me or my team to have to stitch this together ourselves, that some of the founders of these tools need to think through what will ease the life of the in-house or agency doing this work
yeah,
in integrating with. I think they do, but they don't realize how fragmented the ecosystem is, and
yeah,
it leaves it at people like us to kind of figure it out in terms of stitching the not just the tech stack but the processes.
right.
A sales and marketing person has a certain process guideline which they follow, and you're
Mhm.
asking them to do a huge shift without much guideline training, etc. And that is why there are SMEs like us who try to come in and ease that, set it up, then we train and then up level the whole thing to work. In
Mhm.
terms of data, there is data and data, but you need actionable data, as I have been harping along,
Right.
that can actually be used. Otherwise, it's ignored. And a lot of the decision makers who bring in these tools spend quite a bit of money, but the users then, kind of neglect to get full value out of it if
Correct.
it's
And
not.
the absolutely. And the other thing, we've observed, Aditi, I thought I'll add to this point here, is the quality of the data matters a lot, and
Mhm.
the scale of a data, any specific kind of signal data, right? Let's say it's warm leads directly off of your website. The scale and quality, for example, we've seen tool A might give you 10x the scale and quality of tool B, right? Both of them might offer you the same data, but then A is better than B, so you got to go with A. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
One of the biggest pain points sales always complains about marketing is the lead you gave me. I mean, they want you to hand it with the exact phone number, without
Correct.
gatekeepers, without the corporate number, without. So then how do you circumvent that without
Right.
getting into this rabbit hole that this lead you gave is not something I can work with?
Right. Absolutely, it's a big challenge. So let me go on, and I think it's time to wrap up. This conversation here. Let's just wrap it up by this. I believe you wanted to make a few key points about AI is coming and changing go to market. What are the considerations going forward as we navigate this whole AI landscape?
This is basically a takeaway that when you think through the tools, don't just go for the latest shining tool, because that's
Hmm.
going to fade pretty quick in this environment. But really think through, what does your company need? Where are the gaps? Do you think you are ready for AI in terms of your personnel or their skill sets, or do you need somebody to help you navigate this, right? In that case, is this maturity of your company the right phase for certain tool, whereas when you scale to the next level, it might be a different skill set or tool that you need.
Right.
So thinking through that strategically will help you cut out the noise and focus on what would actually be the right thing for you to do in this environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, let me just we should probably share with people how to get in touch with you, and kind of wrap it up. Go ahead, Aditi.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I have a website. You can reach me through Calendly link that I have put out there to book a consultation if you wish, or my
Mhm.
email. And I'm really thankful to you, Mani. We go back many years
Yeah.
as marketers and friends.
Mhm.
But I had fun during this conversation, and I think
Yeah.
you're going to put this on your channel. So if anybody missed it, this can be referred or referred back to.
Yeah, I believe, and hopefully people find it useful, an interesting dialogue and discussion. Folks, both Aditi and I are available. If you have any follow-up questions, you can reach us on LinkedIn, and you got our emails. Thanks, everyone. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and bye for now. Bye, Aditi.
Bye.